Marcheschi from Sign Builder Illustrated. I'm joined here today by Brittany Gacsy, the Executive Director of Project Management at SPI Themed Construction. Brittany, thanks so much for inviting me over to your shop today.
Thanks for having me.
So as everyone knows, ISA is in Orlando this year. Just so happens that Brittany's headquarters is in Orlando. They do a lot of work for the surrounding theme parks. Other places, of course, too, but that's kind of the thing that really stands out and gets people interested, right, is your work with the theme parks.
Yeah, we do most of, probably 95, maybe even at times 100% of our work is theme parks.
Okay.
We do some other hospitality work in between.
Okay. And so, those who read the site and watch our videos know, Brittany was actually an honorable mention last year for our Young Sign Maker Awards, which, as we admitted in the time, probably should have medaled last year, but she reapplied, got the gold medal, extremely deservedly so, for some work that she did with the Minion rides and a really cool chocolate themed restaurant in California. But first of all, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I've seen and learned today, just in about a brief half-hour tour of her shop. Extremely impressive. She's got 35 employees, really doing just about every aspect of signage creation you could imagine.
Yeah, we have hand carvers, welders, painters, wood fabrication, plastics, even some fiberglass. And the team here, everyone's so diverse and really high quality craftsmen, so that we're able to be flexible and pivot from one material to the next.
Yeah, that is something you mentioned, is that a different shop that's putting out the type of output you guys do might need 50, 60 employees, but your staff is so well trained and talented that you can rely on them to do the work of maybe 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, a lot of the team here have been here for 10 plus years, and a lot of our management have been here for over 20 years.
Exactly.
So, and they've been doing theme parks the entire time.
And this is her 15th year in the industry, 4th in this specific role with SPI. And just to kind of give everyone an idea, I just walked through, of course you have some things that are under wraps, you can't really talk about the clients, but what is it like to work with such high-level intellectual property designs, pieces? As you say, sometimes it seems like you're literally creating a movie set. Yeah,
it's really amazing. We could make signs, graphics, props, show sets for anything, right? But to be able to do it for the theme parks is truly, truly inspiring to the people that we work with and inspiring to the guests, because we get to help the Imagineers or Universal Creative bring their visions to life, where human beings can actually interact with them and occupy those spaces as if they were in the movies themselves.
Yeah, and I guess when you think about it, that is really one of the large attractions of a theme park, is that you get to experience in real life some things from your favorite cartoons, movies, everything.
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially making what inspires kids about, magic and things that could never possibly happen. They get to actually be the characters that they dream about being in their lives.
Yeah, that's really cool that you guys get to be involved in that. And so, as you explained, all the time, you'll be working with a rendering from whoever it is, Disney, Universal, whoever it may be. You have a rendering that will obviously be very professional, but from that rendering, you have to take something off of a piece of paper, off of a screen, and sometimes create, a 30 by 50 foot type of installation going on that involves X, Y, and Z, whether that be resin, metal fabrication, whatever it may be. You have to combine these practices. Can you walk us through how you come to make those decisions? Do you bounce things off one of your 35 reliable employees? Do you talk to the owner? I believe you said his name is Mike.
Yep.
Can you just walk us through how something goes from a rendering to becoming a massive installation in your shop?
Yeah, so we get these awesome designs, right, from our clients, and they have that and they have a vision. And sometimes those things are really aligned and easy to deliver, and sometimes they're a little more problematic. Mm-hmm. And so as a team, because of everyone's experience, that they're able to flex between design, fabrication, and metals, and casting, so many different experiences, that they're able to come up with multiple solutions to each and every problem that we have. Okay. And so we take some of those solutions have cons and some of them have pros. Yeah. And we take all those solutions to our clients. And our clients are able to troubleshoot which path works best for their product. Okay. Sometimes, right, something structurally may need to be increased to be able to meet current wind loads or to meet, Florida hurricane requirements.
Yeah, and as you were saying, even the sunlight in Florida is strong, so you gotta work around that.
Right, and so there's compromises that have to be made in order to create to keep what we call the original design intent.
Oh, I see.
So we have to work with our client to figure out what are the compromises that don't actually jeopardize what we call the story, which is kind of the foundation of why we're here and what we're making.
I like that. That's a good way to phrase it. Yeah.
And so we work together with our team here and with our partners.
Okay.
And we try to create the most creative solutions to those problems, which sometimes, you give a little more on the creative side, and sometimes you have to do a little more theatrics with the fabrication in order to deliver those stories.
Yeah, because sometimes you'll just, you'll come to the realization that the solution is something that you've never done before. Or
almost all of the time.
Really?
We're coming up with that the solution is something that we've never done before.
And so one really interesting thing she showed me is that you will actually take one example from a large pack of different installations that the client is asking for, run it by them, you'll bring it to them, run it by them, and they'll tell you whether or not they like it or not, and if they like it, your team uses that to kind of direct them in the rest of the...
Yeah, we do pretty extensive sampling packages, and so what we have to do is we have to work with our client's intellectual property, or sometimes the intellectual property is the client's. It just depends on who we're working with. And we have certain colors and certain sheens and certain textural qualities that we have to meet. So we go through an extensive sample process to get that approved ahead of time, so that when we're ready for the paint and we're ready for those final scenic finishes, that it's not holding us up or stopping us in the process. And we have like a control sample to communicate with the entire paint department so that they know that they're always on track. Yeah,
it's really smart because, I mean, clearly if you were to sit down and think about what's the easiest way we could do it, it would be that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes the easiest solution isn't always the one you think of.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work ahead of time, right? So you're asking the client and us to commit early before the element is done. And so a lot of the time these color samples are done almost at the beginning of a project, sometimes before we've even drawn anything.
Oh, true. I didn't think about that. When it comes to a huge project and kind of an all-encompassing project like one of the ones that you submitted this year for your winning bid here was the new Minion themed additions to the Universal Studios park. Obviously people are obsessed with the Minions. They have so many fans. Kids, of course, of all ages love them. And you were kind of tasked with helping to bring up the vibrancy along the Minion roller coaster, and then another second ride was added, and you did a freeze pop station, a couple restaurant installations, some really intricate hand painted and carved signage. Can you just walk us through kind of your favorite elements from that? I know there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, the cafe letters themselves were probably one of our favorite elements because we were able to work with the Illuminations team, Universal Creative, to sort of create these little gadgets that the Minions themselves would have created to blend or to shoot or to kind of make a lot of their favorite foods. So we were able to reference the movie, use our partners at Universal, and so they created a concept rendering of what their intent was. And we modeled, sculpted, welded, crafted, bent, folded.
About anything you can imagine.
Yeah, all of these elements in place in order to deliver something that was as close as possible to the original intent, and for us it was almost exactly the way that
it really was because you showed me the rendering and then you showed me the final product. For those, just go on signshop.com to view the article. They made the letters for cafe out of some really intricate kitchen utensils that have a bit of a cartoonish spin on them, but they're all completely hand carved.
Yeah, so William, who you met in the back, so he basically, was looking at different ways that icing folded so that on each of the blender kind of utensils that the icing was falling the right way, and we have to think about how the utensils would be and how they would actually move and bend. So if the food was dripping, they have to drip the right direction, and if there were two components of the blender on top of each other, that icing would be falling on one from the other. So those tiny little details are thought about in design, and they're also thought about by our team in the fabrication side. Yeah,
and that's the attention to detail that obviously sets SPI apart from the competition, because your clients know that they're going to get this sort of, I mean, just the way even you just described that, a lot of places wouldn't be able to even go into that much detail.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, that's the biggest difference between making signs and making signs for theme parks, right?
Yeah.
We have to think about weathering physically, and then we have to think about faux weathering, right? So if something is in a dark, spooky area, you know, it needs to look like it's been there for a while. It's covered in cobwebs. It maybe has some rust. It has some paint. And there's drips on it, right?
Yeah.
And all of that rusting, all of that aging is added as a part of the sign itself. Not to mention that all of the natural rusting and aging is all mitigated. The funny thing is that we're constantly having to design things to not look rusty, but then to paint them as if they were in fact rusty. So it's funny. One time I actually had a complaint from one of our clients, one of the operators. They were like, "Hey, your sign it's failing," and I'm like, "Oh, how is that possible? We just installed it." And he sends me a picture of rust, and I'm like, "That's painted rust." Yeah, that's painted rust.
It's so good.
It's
you
so
even tricked
good
him.
that people think it's real. But yeah, it's a funny thing that we do.
That's amazing. And so one of the other pieces of media you submitted for your nomination was the, I hope I say this right, Toothsome Chocolate Emporium in California. If you haven't seen it yet, go to signshop.com and check it out. It's the building itself is impressive.
Yeah,
and
the whole concept and design is wonderful.
They were able to utilize something which is pretty unique from what I understand. You just showed me that you basically have an automotive painting bay in the shop. I hope I'm not giving away any of your secret sauce. But you are really able to, you're able to kind of achieve pretty unique and they stand out, the looks you're able to achieve with your automotive paint. Can you talk about the chameleon look that you gave that sign, because the client was looking for kind of a difference in the look of the sign during the day and the nighttime?
Yeah, so we used a kind of a chameleon paint that turns green, blues, and purples depending on the day and night. And then we also masked other line work that was a similar tone, so the chameleon paint moves while the clock pattern underneath doesn't move as much. So it creates this really nice visual effect that makes it look like that there's actually like movement in the clock itself, but there's not.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting way to be able to use the chameleon paint.
Exactly, yeah. You're achieving different elements of the appearance of movement.
Right, without creating, which is a theatrical kind of application. We often have to do things like that, force something, like force a look or force a sense of movement with paint in order to achieve a final look, whether it's to keep a look happening specifically from a viewpoint, or it's so that when you take a photograph, it always looks in its magical kind of way.
Didn't even think about that. And then that sign also actually does have moving gears behind it that I'm assuming were hand carved.
So they were hand fabricated here, and then we also designed all the motor components and systems to be able to move those gears together. We have designed one here in Florida and one in California. The gear system is a little different because the scale of the signs are just a bit off. Because the Florida one is much larger than the one in California. But yeah, our designers here designed the full motor system and fabricated that, and we tested it and we put it in. We actually do a lot of moving parts and elements, which is adding a level of complexity to the scenic part already.
It seems like that's not something that you ever shy away from, the complexity element.
No, if we haven't done it, then we're all about trying it for the first time.
Exactly. I'm sure you guys are on the cusp of your first flying sign or something crazy like that.
I mean, we get tasked with things like that all the time. We do try to bring a little bit of reality, and even if it's not
Do you have to kind of walk your client back a little bit and be like, look, we can do most things, but you're getting into some uncharted territory here? Yeah,
I mean, we kind of balance that. So we know when the time that we have, it's usually time constraint based. There's never enough time to kind of figure it all out sometimes. So we try to provide... I'm sure
you're in the middle of a project and then they're asking about a new project.
So we try to balance, we definitely balance expectations. All the time the client wants something to literally be flying, right? But we try to create the illusion, and sometimes it's not about doing essentially what the client wants, but it's creating the illusion for the guests. So it's not about making the sign fly. It's about making the guests feel like the sign could be flying. Oh. It's not about making the thing. It's about making the illusion of the thing.
Perfect. Yeah. And if anyone who watched last year knows that Brittany got her start with the Disney Imagineers, so that sounds like some Imagineer thinking right there. But so also something really cool that you do is you get involved with teaching, whether that be at the Orlando campus of the University of Florida or with the trade school in the area. And that's kind of how you keep your finger on the pulse of, potential employees that you may want to come work for you someday, or, as you were mentioning, if you have to get an opinion for someone or outsource something, then you have this very large network now.
Yeah, it allows me to keep connections with the industry. Sometimes at work you get bogged down doing your own thing and staying in kind of your way of doing things. Teaching allows me to, one, be able to learn new technologies. The students are constantly having new programs that they're working with or having new ideas. Yeah. So I teach, it's Fab and Construction. We call it FabX.
Okay.
But the class is essentially full of architects, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, sometimes students with hospitality or literature backgrounds.
Really?
But it's a Master's of Architecture program.
Okay.
And essentially, the students are all there to get into theme park work and theme park design and construction. And so the class...
So I'm sure that they're very, all eyes are on you because they want to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and so the class is focusing really what we do here. Yeah. And so it's about design and fabrication of a small object. Mm-hmm. So the students are tasked with a prompt and designing an object, doing the material research, buying the material, employing the material, really? Scenic painting it, and then installing it in the class and presenting it. What's great about it is that I try to bring in local companies that are in theme parks that are looking for employers or looking for employees. Yeah. So they're coming in on the design reviews, they're coming in on the final reviews, which allow the students to present their work and be able to get
students
jobs.
For you to set them up like that.
Yeah, we have the students are all really amazing with completely diverse backgrounds, but they're for the most part able to find jobs within the theme park industry pretty quickly.
That's amazing because it's a very specific want to work in signage in theme parks, and the fact that you're paving the way for that is really cool. So there's also you mentioned just down the street from where we are currently at your headquarters. You work with a lot of people who are interested in welding or fabrication, maybe trade school-esque type of qualities.
Yeah, so I also work with Southern Technical College, and I am on their advisory board for their curriculum. And they are really interested in developing students in trade schools, specifically at the School for Welding. Mm-hmm. And so they are teaching math and fabrication, welding, reading drawings and plan readings so that they're preparing their students to be able to kind of work in metal fabrication.
Perfect.
Since a lot of them are local, many of them and many other people and groups on the board are actually also adjacently related to the theme park industry. Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting world to be able to come to Orlando because you really can't get that far away from the theme park industry.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hadn't thought about it like that, but in terms of, it's probably like Orlando, Vegas, those are probably, otherwise, maybe Nashville these days, a lot of signs everywhere. Disney is
one of the largest single-site employers in the world, and so you can't possibly be away from the theme parks almost in every job here.
And even, some of the samples you showed me in the shop, you have some very ornate and custom ADA signage that would be amazing just as a one-off piece, but then you're making 400 of them.
Oh, yeah. And so they're all custom backgrounds, custom foregrounds. They have to meet the requirements. They're all in frames. They're scenic painted. Yeah, for us, simple ADA signage is never
that seems simple. To be the theme, is that it's if you're going to take it to the next level at SPI, if there's an opportunity to take it to the next level, you guys will.
Yeah, we have to. And our clients are some of the most demanding in the world, and they create these wonderful experiences, and thousands of people interact with them daily.
Have you ever thought about just how cool it is that people are taking photos in front of these signs, cherishing it, probably framing it in their homes if they're big fans of the parks? It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's one of those days, and I know that everyone has them, where you get down in your job and you're like, oh man, I just can't deal with it anymore. And then you can go to the park and you can walk around, and then you see like kids and you see families, and their faces light up because they're at the entrance, right?
Yeah.
A condition.
It's the closest thing, like you said, it's the closest thing they can get to actually being in the movie
and
or cartoon.
It's you can create such simple joy, and it's from, I mean, we're making signs here, right? We're not doing anything more, but you know, people see these signs from a distance, and they go and they take the same photo with their family year after year in front of the sign, and it means something to them. It's the entry portal, you know, to their family memories, and it's really great.
That is cool. It just goes to show the you know, the power that experiential design can really have, because you're taking what used to be a parking lot, and now there's rides, restaurants, signage, and it's a magical spot now. Yeah,
and we're creating these spaces for people to enjoy for the entirety of their lives. So
and you just you took me to the design room, and your designers were kind of giving you some slack about being the cover girl on the magazine. They said that you know, they weren't surprised that she ended up on the cover, because everyone seems to be really you know, thankful to work with you, and you know, it seems like there's a nice environment here.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we have a lot of people who are in fact family here.
Yeah.
And everyone else, we're a close kind of tight-knit group. Like I said, people have been here for 10 years. They've had weddings, their children, right? They've pretty much done every monumental moment of their lives here and with each other. And even though I've only been here, you know, for 4 years, I've been working with Mike and this company for over 10 years. And so we've established a relationship, and, you know, it's nice to be in a company that's very family oriented, doing really cool stuff together.
Yeah, really amazing. I feel like a lot of people would like to be in your shoes for sure. Do you have anything else that you would like the SBI readers to know about Brittany Gacsy, the cover girl for 2024? But no, I mean, to be real though, it's very impressive. You know, someone who isn't even 40 yet running this type of operation. In terms of leadership skills, organization skills, that's what I was mainly curious about, your organization skills, because just looking at the back, there's like, you know, thousands of moving pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep everything moving. I have giant, massive spreadsheets like many of you, I'm sure, out there have in the world. The great part about my job is that it doesn't ever make me feel unhappy.
Really?
So I go home and I'm working. Mike and I talk probably every hour of the day, on the weekends, the weekday, all day long, because our client is 24/7.
True.
We work at night a lot because our teams are always installing at the night. But essentially, we both really love what we do, and the whole team really loves what we do, and so it doesn't feel like work for any of us. I mean, every now and then, obviously,
you'd rather be on the beach, but
but generally, we all really like doing what we're doing. And so it's easy to stay on top of something when you're already interested in what its outcome will be.
True.
So I remember all of the colors, I remember the things and the process and the product, and we talk a lot. The advantage about being a small company and having the owner like Mike so involved is that he physically is here seeing things all the way through to the end. He's not kind of talking about it. He's not waiting for someone else to tell him or what's happening. I mean, he walks the shop, he problem solves.
With you and Mike both hands-on, it creates kind of a trustworthy environment.
It also stops mistakes from happening and rework, and while nobody likes that from a financial aspect, I mean, from a psychological aspect, the team in the shop and the team in the design room, nobody likes redoing work.
Especially, I mean, they're doing hard labor.
Yeah, nobody likes redoing something. So us being involved allows the entire process to run smoother. We have less mistakes, we have less problems, because we can troubleshoot it and we can see problems. I mean, even though Mike, you know, is in his mid-40s, he's been doing it for 20 years. He can paint, he can weld, he can carve.
He's a classic signage family business.
He knows everything about signs, and he's still fairly young, and he's sitting here teaching it to the designers we have, so it's really nice.
Amazing. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for inviting me out to your shop.
Thanks.
We'll be in Orlando for the next 3 days, and we'll see Brittany again at the ISA show. I'm sure you're going to stop by, see what's new in the industry.
I will.
And then we're going to have our Young Sign Makers dinner, which, who knows, maybe Brittany can somehow work her way into a third one next. No, I'm just kidding. No. But we're super, super grateful you took the time to submit your projects, and we really appreciate your involvement with Sign Builder Illustrated.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
For having me.
Yep.